All right, we are continuing on with our Halloween series review. We just watched Halloween 2, her first time seeing
Yep.
the movie. I've obviously have seen it a few times now. So, coming straight off of it, how do you feel about it?
Um, honestly don't think it was as scary as the first one. A couple good kills, I suppose, but not. I don't know. Not as scary, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I actually tend to agree with you on that one. It is up there for a lot of people, like with the original, because of course it takes place directly after the original movie, which makes it very interesting to watch. This was released in 1981 as opposed to 1978 was the original. So
Yeah.
so you had a few years spacing there. Because in this movie, actually, Jamie Lee Curtis wears a wig. You may not know this, but yeah, you can tell the difference between her hair and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't think it is quite as solid as the first one, me personally. But it is a good, enjoyable watch as far
Well,
as
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I just compared to
mm-hmm,
the first one, I think
yeah,
the first one is better.
mm-hmm, yeah. And so you notice the difference also as well with the mask. It's a little bit different because it's actually the same mask as the first movie, but the guy who played Michael in this one, Dick Warlock, as opposed to Nick Castle in the first one, the way it fitted on his head, his head was a little bit bigger,
Well,
so
yeah.
it looks stretched out a little bit more and stuff like that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I didn't look that closely.
yeah. I mean, if you were to watch them back to back, you can tell the difference though
Yeah.
as to how it.
Well, I mean,
I mean, because especially now the eyes are more apparent. In the first one, they were more hidden in the mask. In the space between the face and the mask itself and stuff. So that changes it a little bit. And you can tell his movement style as well is a little bit more stiff, a little bit more robotic, as opposed to Nick Castle, who was a little bit more fluent in his movements, but he kind of adds his own flavor to it, though.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, as far as the kills, you think they were a little bit better, or just about the same, or
Uh, I think the ones from the first movie were definitely a little more grisly. Um, except for I, I don't know. I honestly feel like the first movie was, like I said, more grisly. This one was, yeah, okay. It slit the security guard's throat with the scalpel thing. And
hmm. Well,
lifting the nurse up.
Well, I'd say this one was probably technically a little more grisly, just because of like the hot tub kill, essentially, like
Okay.
something like that, and then the one nurse who had her blood all spilled out onto the floor. Because like I said, the first one you had hardly any blood, and all this one you have like a little pool of blood
Well,
on
yeah,
the
literally
yeah,
blood, but
yeah,
the manner of
in the
the
man
way they died in the first one.
yeah, which were mostly like kind of like strangulations, and then kind of like maybe a slit or something like it was a little bit more like literally hands on, so
But
it
yeah,
seemed a little bit more.
tens.
Yeah. So from that point of view, I can understand that. Now how you feel about like Donald Pleasance in this one, as opposed to kind of like expanding more of, just getting more of his perception, of Michael, and his performance overall.
Yeah, we learned a little bit more. Obviously, more stuff. Still was important. I think if they took him away, I don't think it really would have made sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, especially for this one, I felt like, 'cause I feel like the characters in this one aren't as memorable. They're more of like typical slasher, there to be killed. They're not like the first one with like Linda with the totally like the personalities and the Annies. I don't feel like they quite match up to what they were in the first movie. Like it's just kind of typical, people to stack a body count for
yeah,
in a
you
sense.
get naked, you die.
Yeah, and that's again Will Donald Pleasance really helps to ground it, because even Jamie Lee Curtis in this one, she's much more reserved. Of course, she's like practically laid out in the hospital bed half the time and kind of dazed out, so you don't even get as much of her personality, just kind of more of her running away. So that's why I feel like it's not as interesting as what the first one was. Because even to me, this one, I feel like the pacing is like I can watch a slow paced burn, like a slow burn, like the first one. But even this one feels like it drags in certain areas, sort of, just kind of going through the hospital. But the setting itself, do you think you would prefer the hospital setting in terms of creepiness, or kind of like what the first one was in terms of all the different housing and stuff?
Um, I think me personally, hospitals are creepy because of certain personal situations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I mean, you got the people peeping through your window. There's that creep factor. You can't
Mm-hmm.
entirely do that in a hospital unless you're peeping through, like the room
Yeah.
door or something,
Yeah.
or
Well,
you're on
that's
the ground
yeah.
floor.
That's the thing about this movie is that it's very dark for a hospital. You would think though. It's like it's like even for like a small town, you just feel like where the hell is everything in this hospital? It's so dark in here.
Yeah, that was extremely bare bones staff in that
Yeah.
place. Hospitals are
Mm-hmm.
big, even for
Yeah.
a small town.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now you feel about the music in this one because this one it's the same theme, but it's more synthesized. Like it's basically a
well,
synthesized
yeah,
because it's very 80s by that point.
yeah, I know. I was
Yeah.
gonna say it definitely was brought into the 80s. You can tell.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because this was just done the year after Friday the 13th had come out, and Friday the 13th is typically it is a straight up ripoff of Halloween. Like a lesser version of that. So by this point, Jason was already, or at least the killer in that movie was already on the scene when this one had come out. Um, so horror was definitely evolving by that point. A lot was changing. So now this one, now as we talked about before, with the whole motivation of Michael himself, and why he does it. Now this one brings up the fact that they are related. Now, how do you feel about that?
Obviously, I'm a little surprised because it's my first time seeing it, but it makes sense of why her, but still, like, everybody else is just random.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, he's kind of psycho because he's killing his family,
Mm-hmm.
so there's that, but
Yeah.
everybody else is just like, okay, I kind of feel like killing these people, or hey, they got naked, let's kill them,
Mm-hmm.
classic horror deaths.
Yeah, because after this movie, with the franchise, it kind of really became synonymous that that they are related, and that was his primary motivation. Especially as you get to the later films, it definitely dives a lot deeper in a lot of that stuff. But believe it or not, this was not the intent because the original itself was meant to be a standalone movie. That was like the original intent of the Michael Myers character was meant for him to not have a motivation. It was meant for him to just be, just going through and you know, just doing his thing, just picking targets at random, whatever his, you know, just kind of like ongoing passion for just killing, essentially.
Okay.
But for this, like, because of course the first one was such a success, and they wanted John Carpenter to make a sequel for it. And so basically, John Carpenter, he basically came up with the plot point, like a lot of the stuff for this movie, while drinking. He himself pretty much regrets the fact that he made them related because, he's like he needed something to add to it. So he's just like, fine, screw it, they're related. So for the most part, yeah, it was not really meant to be the case originally, but for a sequel, it's just like, well, he kind of threw that in there, just to kind of add something more to it. But he himself wasn't really a fan of that idea, and I absolutely understand that because I do think it works better for him to not have a particular motivation. I mean, I can see it as its own thing. It's like, yeah, it works to some extent, sure, but for Michael Myers the character, I think it works better with that subplot out of it.
Yeah, it's weird in any case why someone wants to kill their family. But yeah, I could see that it could have done without that. It's just for some reason, if you take away the fact that they're related, like, oh, just for some reason he just wants to go after this chick. Whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Something about this chick, just stuck in his brain, if there is one, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, myself, I probably would have just left it alone. But like I said, you know, it's like they want you to do a sequel. It's like, well, you only have so many options. And this also too was meant to kind of be the end as well. You know, like after like even this one was done, it's just be like, well, yeah, that's Michael's burned up. Loomis more than likely died in that explosion. So like that's
yeah,
the end.
There's no way
That's
getting
the end
out
of Michael.
That. That was insane.
Yeah.
I'll give them that.
Yeah. But of course, there's more to come, and we'll get into that eventually at some point. So overall, how would you say you would rate it from like 1 to 5?
I don't know if I'd give it the same rating as the first one.
Yeah,
I definitely like the first one better.
Yeah, because I think you gave it a 5.
Yeah, obviously. So probably just like a 4. I mean, it's still good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the first one better.
Yeah. So all in all, for me, like I said, I mean, even when I have first watched this one, and from then onward, I just felt like it just didn't stick with me as much as the first one. Like I said, I like the idea of it just being taking place like immediately after the first one. I kind of like that sort of tight continuity with certain movies like that feel episodic and feel like they're that tightly connected and stuff. And the hospital setting is very creepy, and there are some good kills and good moments and stuff. And yeah, it's just more the same with Donald Pleasence. You can't really go wrong there. But all in all, it's like, yeah, I feel about the same way. I'd say about 4, maybe even 3.5 to some degree.
I know. I felt kind of bad thinking that. Like,
no. Like, I mean, for some it is a fan favorite as well. But even for me, it's never been as strong as even a later film. I would say Part 4 for me, just because it is a little bit more of an exciting film, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that'll do it. That was our review of Halloween 2. We will definitely continue on with this. Again, I don't know if we'll go immediately to 3, which I don't know if you know anything about Halloween 3 at all, but that's a bit of a different story. That's for sure. But we'll get to that at some point, or if we'll jump to something else by the next review. But if you have watched this, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. And we will see you next time. Say goodbye to the people now. Goodbye.